Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and 24 hours on from Celtic booking their place in a Scottish Cup final, from taking one step closer to yet another treble, we gather today to talk more about that 5-0 win over St Johnstone yesterday, amongst some other things in today's video. And the good news for you is, I'm a wee bit more sober, so a lot more clarity on the issues today, I'd assume. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. We are around 15 subscribers away from 49,000. So if you haven't, go down below, hit both those buttons. It's absolutely free. We've got a number of things to talk about today on what has been a sombre Easter Monday. I would be remiss not to mention the sad passing of our Holy Father Pope Francis this morning. Celtic have indeed released a club statement on CelticFC.com following the passing of Pope Francis. This was what they put on the website today, saying that Celtic Football Club would like to express its deepest condolences following the death of Pope Francis, who passed away this morning at the age of 88. Everyone at the club is saddened by this morning's news, and we offer our sincere thoughts and prayers. I echo everything Celtic said in their club statement this morning. Very sad to wake up and see the news for a man who I had the utmost respect and love for. All I can say is rest in peace, Pope Francis. Your compassion, your kindness, your holiness will never be forgotten, and prayers with everybody. So Celtic have booked their place in the Scottish Cup final following the 5-0 win over St Johnstone yesterday at Hampden Park. We continue to make Hampden look like a training ground for this Celtic side, and I say that with all due respect to St Johnstone yesterday, who came and gave it their best shot, but we were unbelievable. We were relentless, and it was the vintage Celtic performance that I've become so used to seeing at Celtic Park since Brendan Rodgers took the job in 2016, that carried through under Neil Lennon, who won a treble, to Ange Postecoglou, who won a treble. We are on the brink of yet again doing that. And that's the standard that's been set since 2016, since Rodgers entered the club for the first time. Trebles were few and far between for Celtic Football Club. And now they have become the norm. In fact, now when you don't win a treble, or when you don't get close to winning a treble, you start to talk in the hypothetical disasters. That's what happens amongst the Celtic support. We have been spoiled with success. And I think this is a team, a unit, which is just so used to that success, which is addicted to that success. And it's a real dangerous precedent we've set for the entirety of Scottish football. Everybody on the outside is looking on and just having to get used to watching Celtic win and win and win and dominate this country. And I know that so many people are frustrated with that outside of the Celtic support. In fact, to the point where people continuously say it must be boring for Celtic supporters. But I tell you, yesterday when that final whistle went, even when we were 5-0 up and clearly through, even at half-time we were clearly through to the Scottish Cup final, I felt no sense of boredom. I felt that overwhelming joy and happiness and pride in this Celtic team, that we continuously set that standard so high, and that we are once again going to make more memories, hopefully, at Hampden on the 24th of May. So the date is set, and we know our opponents, the 24th of May, a 3 o'clock kickoff as things stand on that day for the Scottish Cup final. Aberdeen versus Celtic, a side who we've been pretty good against this season, bar of course that draw very early days in the 2024-25 campaign. But we've played them at Hampden before. We've seen how it went that afternoon, and I think a lot of people up and down the country, Celtic supporters and non-Celtic supporters, are starting to think that could happen again. Starting to think that Celtic could make it an occurring trend, that we go to Hampden and play the way that we did yesterday. And you can see why. I'm not going to sit here and say that's what I expect of Celtic. I'm not going to put the bad omen in the air that we're going to go and beat Aberdeen 5 or 6-0 and then we end up losing the game. But you can see why people are threatened and why people think that Celtic are just going to do this to team after team, because it's just second nature for us at this point. And I can see why people will just think this is going to be the norm from now until somebody can stop that dominance, because Celtic have just got far too good at it and they are in the routine. So it'll be a tough game. Aberdeen, of course, have had an up and down season. Their form has picked up again of late, so probably a better side now than the last couple of times we've played them. But I want Celtic to be relentless. I want that same Celtic performance at Hampden in the cup final as we got yesterday afternoon. And there's so many people that are talking about Celtic going into this game, quite frankly, worried. This was the comments of Richard Gordon on BBC Sports Sound yesterday, saying that it's just a case of finalising things here. He feels that Celtic will do the same as what they've done to St Johnstone. He wouldn't be at all surprised to see a repeat of the scoreline that we have just witnessed. I'm just being brutally honest in that respect. They've done it consistently. They've won every league since 2011, 2012. Not so dominant in the cups, but they've picked up more than their fair share of those. And when you think that they've won 29, the next most successful teams during those 14 years are Rangers and St Johnstone with 3 trophies. Nice way to rub it into the Rangers supporters there, Richard. Thank you very much. That's it. Celtic are the unsurprising force of Scottish football at this point, and that is the expectation of us. That is the standard that's been set by Brendan Rodgers and this Celtic side. And to quote a song that we heard once again ringing around Hampden yesterday, I just can't get enough. Aberdeen chairman Dave Cormack has commented on the final and rated his team's chances of beating Celtic in that final, and quite rightly confident in his side. I doubt he'd come out and say that he doesn't think they stand a chance. So he did say that as long as we turn up, we have got a chance. We're pleased for the fans and for the city. The fans are really enjoying the football, and that Jimmy and the team are trying to play. So they want to put a smile on the face of the city and the supporters. I would say fair play. Good. Show up, give us a game. I like competition, I'd like a challenge. But what I'll also say is, and this is what I wanted to transition into, can we avoid this pointless debate about how many fucking fans Aberdeen should get? I know you're talking about the fans in the city, now you want to put a smile on their face, but let's not get dragged into this pointless conversation about 50-50 splits. I normally don't get caught up in the whole debate about how many seats are given to supporters at Hampden and what the percentage of the share is. But there is no way on earth that Aberdeen should be given a 50-50 split in this cup final. And I would be shocked and saddened if they are. And I don't mean, and I never like to come across as the entitled Glasgow fan, the entitled Celtic supporter. The fact of the matter is, if you're only taking the amount that you took to the semi-final, you should be getting the same amount of tickets for the final. And if you want any more than that, it should be a very little amount. And I'm fed up, and I'm just going to say it how it is. I'm fed up with this whole argument. Oh, they're putting on the 12:30 kickoff for us up in Aberdeen. It's a 2.5 hour drive. You're not going in fucking Arctic Expedition, right? Celtic fans have to get to Dingwall, have to get to Inverness, have to get to Aberdeen, have to get to Dundee, have to get to everywhere else in the country when there's away games. And sure, the stakes might not be as high as a cup final, but they still do it. In fact, I bumped into a fella yesterday, shout out to the Inverness Hoops, lovely guy outside of Hampden Park, made his way down from Inverness for yesterday's game, and I'm sure he does that every time Celtic play at 12 o'clock or 12:30. And they don't moan about it, they get on with it. All over Europe, fans are more hard done by than what Aberdeen fans are. We live in a snotter of a country, the place is tiny. If that is your main concern and that is your excuse because you can't be arsed getting up and setting off a wee bit earlier, I just think it doesn't wash for me. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. Call me entitled all you like, but it's not the fucking end of the world. And not every Celtic supporter in that stadium is from Glasgow, as you constantly like to remind us, because you keep saying folk are glory hunters and they pick the Celtic rather than their local teams. I'm lucky. I'm from the East End of Glasgow. It's my local side. Hampden's no far from me. I get in the supporters bus. I'm there in half an hour. Fantastic. But to go through this whole rigmarole every year, give us peace. Jesus God Almighty. See you at the final and bring as many as you can. But it should never in a million years be a 50-50 split. So before I'm done with this video, a big point I wanted to cover today was the performance yesterday of Celtic's number 9, Adam Idah, who I have been a relentless supporter of throughout the season, who I have tried to back up in the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, from his stinkers that he's dropped in domestic games to the heights of scoring 2 down at Villa Park in the Champions League. For the £9 million price tag, I have put my neck on the line for him time after time, taken the stick for it, and continued to do it. Because why? Because I truly believe that Adam Idah is a baller, a great striker, and will come good for Celtic. And yesterday, I think we've seen another example of that with another good performance. I think that Adam Idah is the prime example of why patience is needed in football, and that patience is quickly disappearing in the modern game with the rise of the online supporter and stuff like that. I think that it's really difficult to get patience from a support nowadays, and in particular a Celtic support whose, once again, expectations and standards are so high. Adam Idah has been far from perfect this season, and he knows that himself. But I know that there's a player in there. We have seen evidence of a player in there. And quite frankly, I think that some of the abuse that he's went under this year has been shocking. And I'm glad that yesterday he had one of those games where I think that he could put the doubters at ease for a while, that he can prove that he's worth the money that we've spent on him, and that he's going to give Brendan Rodgers a headache between now and the end of the season, going into next season, that he has the viable option to be starting up front. I was chuffed to see him get on the score sheet. I was chuffed to see him play the way that he did. I thought he was so influential in what we're doing in the final third. And that comes off the back of last week's game, in which I thought he'd done much the same. It was just unlucky not to score any goals. But you look at his record with the minutes that he's played, Adam Idah has been, he's delivered this season. Maybe not delivered to the 9 million price tag. Maybe not delivered to the expectation you set of him. But I'm certainly happy with his contributions this year. I mean, courtesy of 67 Hail Hail, this is his competitions laid out in a nice wee graphic for us in terms of goals and appearances and minutes played. His minutes to goal ratio is actually really, really good. And he's not hitting numbers like Dyson Maeda, he's not hitting numbers like Kyogo was prior, but the way that he's scoring and the minutes that he's been afforded is actually pretty good. 8 goals in the league in 1,400 minutes. The 3 goals in of over the 10 of the Champions League, which is a good return. And in the Cups, he's been brilliant. He's got 4 goals in 7 games. Nowhere near 7 90-minute games either. 15 goals in his first permanent season as a Celtic player, with the remaining 5 league games and a cup final, 6 games to go. Adam Idah could realistically hit a 20-goal season. And when you consider how difficult it was for him to break in with Kyogo being here and now Maeda being a really good option as a striker, I think this is a fine return. Adam Idah didn't ask to have a £9 million price tag put on his head. Can I remind you that? I think we can all agree £9 million was a bit much to spend on him, but he wasn't the one that asked for that. And Rodgers wanted him in for a reason, and I think that his numbers suggest that the reason he was brought in was justified. I was chuffed to see him play the way that he did yesterday, especially after a weekend where he was in the headlines for perhaps the wrong reasons. Rodgers did acknowledge the videos that were circulating online of Adam Idah in the taxi and his big night out and all the rest of it. At the end of the day, Adam Idah's a young lad who is allowed to have a life, and Rodgers confirmed he was perfectly entitled to do so, and it didn't impact any of his duties. In fact, here was Rodgers' comments exactly. He said that you've got to remember that a lot of salt and pepper gets added to these things, and then it becomes a lot of a bigger deal than it actually was. He's a fantastic professional, and I read the story about him being sick in the taxi. He wasn't actually sick in the taxi. He's trained well this week. I've got no issues with anything like that. If I had issues, I've had issues before with taking players out of the teams and stuff like that, but it was never the case with Adam here. He is ready to start and perform, backing up the professional that he is. And once again, if you want to try and strip away the social lives of these young players, then they become robots, and it doesn't become a joy to do their job. You need to keep players happy and balanced, and they do that while also respecting what they have to have with their responsibilities at a football club. And Adam, as backed by the manager, is doing exactly that. We were hearing all these things. I seen Hugh Keevins was out saying he's in danger of becoming Celtic's most overpriced player ever, and that he's not delivering, and different pundits are saying the same things. If he blocks out that noise and he just keeps going, keeps himself level-headed and focused on the end game, he'll be fine. And I've been saying it all season. Call me a blind Adam Idah lover. If all you like is about to say hater, I'm far from an Adam Idah hater. I might be a blind Adam Idah lover, but I really love the big man, and I hope that he continues to perform between now and the end of the season. Right, that does it for today. I've dragged things on a wee bit longer than I would have liked to, but I had to get my love for Adam Idah across somehow. If you've enjoyed, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. We'll see you throughout the week building to the return of the Scottish Premiership. So until then, take care, God bless, and I'll see you all next time.